for that. I have no idea if that even is a thing on YouTube. I know they do it for Wolf Trading.
Yeah, it can show like a waiting or something like that.
Yeah. I see he's back though. Tony, I can see your face now.
Excellent.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm kind of mobile here again. It's like the talk of the town here. But guys, welcome back to Trading and Market Talk on the stream. We have Mr. Tony the Bull. We have Mr. Bits with us. We're going to get into the markets a little bit. Keep the here. You guys just came over from the market. We really appreciate you. We're going to see if we can pull some charts. I see Tony's is already up here. So, Tony, you weren't with us in the space just now, which is actually cool. Bits was part of that conversation. And so we have a fresh angle and I don't know, you would call it a veteran angle from the last hour of conversation. But hey, we were seeing Bitcoin rip a little bit. I know there was, I think, Bits, you mentioned that you are short around this point, right? At least temporarily.
Yeah, I opened a small hedge just in case we had a little bit of downside for a short pullback. But no, yeah, it's not like a big short. I don't think we're going significantly lower. I still think it looks good for higher. Let me pull up my chart as well while
cool.
Tony's is.
Yeah, Tony, I was going to say let's would love to see kind of what you're seeing in the markets. If it's Bitcoin you're tracking or something else.
Yeah, so I'm looking a little bit everywhere right now. The big thing for me is truly altcoins that I'm paying the most attention to, trying to reassess what's going on over there after this, big liquidation cascade event that we had, and also based on what Bitcoin's doing. So Bitcoin is our primary market driver, rising tide lifts all boats type of thing. But when Bitcoin is going down, it usually takes alts with it. So I mean, there's obviously some exception to those rules and periods of sideways in Bitcoin where alts do well. But, overall, I'm seeing, this momentum here has turned bearish. And, these bear crushes on the log MACD are pretty significant. So now I've gone over this in past market talks and things like that. It's kind of something I'm watching closely. And now the higher the time frame, sort of the more dominant the signal. And we're close to getting this crossover on the 6 week, which on the monthly, we got a little bit more chop on the 6 week. So like over here, we never crossed bearish, but we did here when the bear market started. Same here, very clear crossover on the bullish side, very clear crossover on the bearish side. Did not cross bullish over here like we did on the monthly. So this stayed bearish all the way until the bull run. So, same thing, bearish pretty much all the way until a bull run was pretty confirmed. Now, I'm watching this closely. Momentum tends to persist. I do think that there is some chance for this to turn down, but there's also some, at least some probability that this could diverge up and, maybe do something similar to this over here where, boom, we get one more big move, big blow off. Now, obviously, Bitcoin and alts have some type of correlation, some type of close relationship, even though it hasn't been, one-to-one so much recently. But I've been looking a lot at this others chart here, and I noticed that this ABC correction type pattern is very similar to what we saw at COVID. And, obviously, this is a hammer type candlestick with a huge long wick, hammer type candlestick, huge long wick. It took out this sort of area, liquidity in this area, took out liquidity in this area. Tons of similarities here. So obviously we need to consider the fact that this move was, I guess, devastating enough, inflicted enough pain, fear, washed out enough positions that this can then happen after. So even though I see, sort of teetering momentum on certain time frames, especially in Bitcoin, this sort of setup looks really good. And then when I turn on some indicators that I typically use, we can see that, we bottomed under this 50-month moving average, and then we came, retested it, then kind of went through it, and then boom, we had our rally. Came, retested it, retested it again, and then, big, deep sort of wick into it. Do we get a rally after this? Possible. Another thing I look at a lot of the Bollinger Bands because I like to kind of see how there's alternation in between tight, low volatility phases like this, and then highly volatile phases like this and this. So now we didn't quite get the big move after this tightness, but with these conditions here, it's possible that we could, there's enough volatility and enough sort of energy in, in this area that we could then take off from here. So that's one of the things I'm watching, and then specifically, you know, I showed that log MACD indicator on Bitcoin, sort of looking a little bit more bearish. And it's very bearish over here. We've turned bearish for a while. We have, in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 7 ticks or so on the histogram of bearish momentum. However, I do want to point out that we did sort of get this strengthening dark red bearish momentum here, again, right at this particular candlestick, and then boom, crossed up and rallied from there. So, you know, this doesn't necessarily mean it's lights out for alts. It's over. But at the very least, I want to know what happens from here. If we start to look like we're doing this, I'm good. I'm gonna go all in, and I think we're gonna get our crypto rally. If for some reason we close some sort of a session below this lower Bollinger Band, I'll probably exit all the crypto for a while. So
wow.
you know, pretty important inflection point in my opinion. You know, we had some signs that some of these things were going to be happening, like the weekly Bollinger Bands on Bitcoin were the tightest ever in history. When those phases sort of end, those low volatility phases end, it gives you high volatility, and you know, it can be like a roller coaster and basically just shake you out. Versus, you know, it's not always just a big deep crash or a big parabolic upside explosion. It can be both, and I think that that's potentially what's happening here. Is you know, we're seeing the final shakeout or so before something happens. So even though, you know, again, I'm talking a little bit more bearish Bitcoin, you know, this doesn't necessarily have to happen. If we start to move up in alts, and, you know, a bullish sentiment can carry Bitcoin up higher. And then, you know, I did want to kind of point out, same, you know, sort of same location as where these are. Ethereum is holding above a key support and resistance level that looks like it has been flipped. So it's very similar to sort of this area from the last cycle. And, you know, again, if this holds, there's, you know, higher likelihood that we start to move up from there. And in fact, you know, when I was looking over here and thought that we were, you know, going parabolic on Ethereum, my targets would say 8, 10, maybe $12,000 ether. But with taking this much more time and everything, my targets are much higher. I think we'll probably even do, you know, 15K. If there's another big correction in here, maybe a 20K.
Jeez. Because of the amount of time people have had to get into their positions. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you know, so one of the things about the everybody calls it a price chart, but the truth is there's 2 axes on every single chart. It's the price side and then the time side. And the longer sort of time goes by, the higher price can go, just due to fundamentals and the growth of money and the growth of money supply and things like that, and economic growth. So, you know, I just think, yeah, almost an additional year or 2 have went by. So I think that there's enough potential for price to go a lot higher for those reasons.
Gotcha. Oh, love the announcement there. And hey, look, that price, first time caller, long time listener. Let's go. Yeah, for everyone who's in the space or in the stream, if you're on YouTube or X, really appreciate you guys coming through. Please do, if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow on YouTube. So definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the like button. If you have any that you guys want us to look at as well, definitely drop a comment. If there's any tickers or key levels you want us to have a look at. We have Mr. Bits and Tony here live with us and doing some charts. If you're on X, please repost the stream. And by the way, guys, I put the 2 links there in the private chat if you guys need. Otherwise, Bits, I have your screen pulled up. Would love to jump over to your side of things and see what you're seeing.
Yeah, I like that Tony went first, because we have similar takes, and I always beat him to the good stuff. And
Yeah,
look at him smiling. He beat me today. He's like, all right, I got you. Now look, if I agree, similar thing. Like I'm kind of seeing that same. It's like it's trying to flip this in the support potentially, and you're kind of seeing that also with ETH BTC, right? So ETH BTC doing something similar, still looking okay, still above its yearly open, still above this like longer term zone that I've got here, still above the moving average. So ETH BTC looks okay. I think ETH USD still looks okay. You know, Bitcoin over gold has been this thing that I've talked about for forever. People are probably sick and tired of it, but it's still relevant, right? So we're still watching this. It's coming up to a very like interesting opportunity here, which is this swing low. We'll see if this ends up just becoming a swing failure that just basically just sweeps sweeps the low, and then just continues higher, right? Essentially, think of it as a trap, right? Could be like a bear trap that we're essentially setting here. So I'm going to be watching that there. Really, I'd be watching it more on like the monthly. We still have like a little bit over 11 days. If the month closes above that, then I think that's probably what we got there, right? So if here in the next 11 days we can close above this, I think that'll be a pretty interesting move, and then maybe it opens up the door to what Tony was kind of talking about, which is we get some kind of reversal to the upside here. And that was basically that capitulation move before a significant leg higher. So could be the case, but if it doesn't, right? If we do make a lower close here, one of the things that I had talked about, and really I think it's on the total gold chart more than anything, but one of the things I talked about is that like this was the lower high, and you see it on Bitcoin versus gold. Also, you got a lower high on a high time frame. So it is, worth watching that and just acknowledging that. Total crypto market cap over gold has not taken out that low. So there is a difference there. We still are above that low, and you still are putting in technically higher lows here. Whereas Bitcoin over gold has broken that structure. So Bitcoin over gold not only put in a lower high relative to the previous high, it now is also currently a lower low compared to that previous low. So not seeing that on total crypto, which again, to Tony's point, could signal that maybe the altcoins are what's going to carry the market higher and eventually pull BTC up higher as well. Since, here you've got the lower high, but you've yet to take out that low. So that is interesting. For fun, I did something the other day because everyone was circulating this. Where do I have it? It might not even be on this chart. Maybe it's on this chart actually. Here, let me see. Yeah, it's this one. So everyone likes to like do this.
I saw this.
Oh, we are here, and we're like people have been pointing at like these lows for like 2 years now. We're here. Like every time you have a dip, we're always here. We're always at the bear trap. Every time it's always the bear trap, and it's like, well, maybe. But I thought that this was interesting. It's like, okay, let's actually look at this structure that everyone's trying to share. The first thing that jumps out at me is like, okay, you would think that the lower high is probably pretty important. Do we have a lower high on this chart? Yes, we do. We have a lower high there. Okay. Was there a euphoria peak before that, right? Yeah, you had this higher peak right before that, hence why that's a lower high. Okay, well, what comes after the lower high? Well, you got to take out this low. You got to take out this low because then you get a breakdown of structure, which is what gives you the move down to the bear market. Okay, do we have any point on this chart where we've taken out a low over here between the peak and between the lower high? Oh, what do you know? We have a low here between the peak and between the lower high that we just took out. Oh my God. We're definitely over here, not over here where everything is making perfect freaking sense, right? Like clearly that's what's happening, right, Tony? So, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's interesting, man. Like everyone wants to use these graphs and these little charts, but nobody wants to actually look at the structure and say, yeah, it makes no sense that we're here because, price action is telling you a totally different thing.
Even if they did and they're not fans of the 4-year cycle, this model shows a absolute destruction right after this peak. So I'm like, we are thinking that Bitcoin is still going to drop 75%. I thought that was the consensus. We were not going to be doing that if you're not part of the. I mean, you basically only think we're dropping 70% if we're following a 4-year cycle.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
So this chart is almost irrelevant unless you're a 4-year cycle believer.
Unless you're and these same people that are like telling you we're here in the bear trap are also telling you, oh, cycles are no more and we're just going up forever. Well, then why even use this, right? So there's just a bunch of funny stuff that happens on CT, and most of the people that are reposting this stuff or buying into it aren't really paying attention to what's happening. And so like I'm not saying like this should be highly relevant to your TA or anything like that. I just think if you're going to talk about structure, it's as simple as really just paying attention to this. Like, okay, here, low, okay, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. something has not repeated. Something that's repeated here has not repeated here. Why is this low lower than this one if all the other ones have been higher? And then you say, okay, well, let's look at the lows. Okay, well, this low was higher than the absolute low. This low was higher than the one before that. This low was higher than the one before that. Uh-oh, why is this low now lower? Like, very simple stuff, right? So, and I don't mean that this stuff necessarily has to play out in a bearish way and that it's over, but it should just tell you that, okay, something has changed here recently. Something is different. Maybe we need to be a little more guarded is all that really means. Like, maybe we got to be a little bit more cautious. So not to turn it into a bear stream, because I don't think that we're necessarily, it's over right now. Right. But yeah, I just thought that was hilarious, man. And, people look for the clickbaity stuff, but to bring it back to kind of more bullish, this was the setup that I basically took on BTC after the big washout. Everyone was screaming that we were going so much lower. I got a long position here at like 105.8 or something like that here as it was coming up. The one I shared publicly was to wait for this pullback, just because I don't like to share like the more aggressive stuff. But the pullback got filled, and I actually took this exact one that I shared. I took this one on another exchange just so I could show that this actually was a valid entry. So I took one over here that I kind of front run it a little bit on a different exchange. And then I took the one I shared on a separate one just to demonstrate that. And then this was another opportunity here on a pullback basically to this structure shift, right? You had support, resistance. You could have played an entry here as support. Right now I'm eyeing this zone here, Cade, this like 109, slightly under 110. And the reason for that is it's doing this very nice up, pullback. That's where I'd kind of be looking for that next one based on this inefficiency here. So if we get a pullback there, I think it could still have another leg up. But I did take a small short hedge at these highs just in case it doesn't, in case it falls through that. So, but that's basically what I'm looking at for BTC. I think right now it looks okay. This was a buy zone down here. This was a big high time frame buy zone. If you didn't take that because you're waiting on something else, or because sentiment was bad, or because CT was scaring you or whatever, then you missed that. Now you got to look for a pullback and another opportunity. But that just to me, this was where you were looking to buy, just like up here is where we were looking to sell.
I like that. And Cheryl, I agree with you. And by the way, I was not talking. So if you were insulting anyone, unfortunately, Bits, you were at the butt end of this joke in terms of someone being clueless. But if it was me, I agree with you. That's why we have Tony here. And I saw Tony, you getting active down there in the charts as well. So we'll bounce right over to your screen here. And if you're on YouTube, by the way, please subscribe. If you're on X, please repost the stream. And follow the speakers, or follow the traders right above our faces. You have Tony and Bits both tagged here. So you can give them both a follow and follow their journey and see what kind of trades they're up to. Go ahead, Tony. I see you got gold spot. Okay, here we go. I like it. Oh, you're muted, by the way, Tony.
And there we go. Thank you. Yeah, gold spot. I think truly the fate of Bitcoin and crypto is more in the hands of precious metals than like anybody really wants to kind of give credit to. So, this is what we're used to Bitcoin doing when it goes parabolic. And I mean, it's just not doing that. It's not doing anything like that. It's still looking a lot more corrective. So, obviously what we want to ultimately see is Bitcoin do something like this at the end. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But at the very least, if there is like this idea of capital rotation from gold into Bitcoin and Bitcoin into gold, and it does seem to be plenty of evidence of that based on, sort of the ebb and flow of capital and price action on these two when you compare them. But, we are at this sort of basically the strongest monthly RSI reading since 1979. And actually at this point, it's 1973 is the only real reading above it. So, the strongest reading since 1979, 92.8 on our monthly RSI.
Good Lord.
And I mean, I'm sure you've seen the news headlines, the pictures of people lining up in front of, precious metal, I wanted to call them dispensaries, bullion suppliers. So, I really do think we're approaching some sort of a top. Another thing I noticed is gold has always done at least a 40% correction within the next few months. Next couple of years after triggering a TD9 or 13 on the TD sequential market timing indicator. We do have this TD9 this year. So, we could always be looking at a pullback year the next couple years and then one more move up. I tend to think this is actually what we're looking at, a situation more like this. Or it could be a situation where we rise a couple more years and ultimately this was more like a 60% drawdown or something like that. I also noticed this TD risk dot all the way up here at 61.47. And, over here, these TD risk dots have eventually hit and beat. These TD risk dots, ended up being too strong of resistance, sent us down, but still was, ended up being taken out. So, if we see a situation like this, we're probably going to see $6,000 gold per ounce before this real parabolic move, this one that I was pointing out here, is over. And now you can see even back here, when it's this strong, look at how far and how much it can move when the RSI is that strong. So, there's still, even though this looks done for, I think it's getting closer, but, we could see a really, really strong, powerful move, more than anybody's expecting, before it's all said and done. Now, what I'm finding interesting about all of this is here's a specific chart. Now, I showed something like this. It was just Bitcoin USD against the dollar. This is Bitcoin trading against gold. So now we are in the process of closing, or at least we have an active candle below the Bollinger Band basis. When we did that over here, we immediately went into capitulation within 2 months. Over here, we immediately capitulated, immediately capitulated. So what I'm getting at is we may be capitulating on the gold chart very specifically, where we see this really powerful move in gold simultaneously with probably a nastier move in Bitcoin. But when whatever happens here is over, I do think we get a near-term bounce. So, we may be looking at something worse, but every time this has really happened, we did get some sort of decent rally in Bitcoin following. So, here's another longer term chart that I'm looking at, kind of talking about the 4-year cycles again. You can see that these 4-year cycles, especially on the gold chart, seem to be kind of pointing in this area. I don't know though, I even for myself, I'm kind of losing some hope in the 4-year cycle. Not necessarily hope, but I just know based on cycle theory, cycles change. When everybody kind of notices the cycle, it tends to start to morph and adapt to the market and make sure it screws everybody over. So I
saw Ben Cohen also talking about it. He was actually, he believes the 4-year cycle, but he doesn't think it's based on the halvings. He thinks it's based on, he says the 4-year cycle is not just for Bitcoin. He goes, there's many other assets that trade around 4 years and they have a drawdown. And it could be something as simple as, hey, we just kind of downtrend for a year and kind of let people cool off. And he was like, yeah, that would be a bear market. It just wouldn't be the same type of bear market we've seen. He goes, but he's like, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing 200K, Bitcoin runs up end of year. He goes, and then we kind of just chill out for a year. And then we see the lows at some point that next year. And then we kind of trend up from there. And then it feels like nobody was wrong. Everyone was kind of right, sort of. Everybody's in the middle. And I could totally see that playing out. Because you're right. I mean, dude, that's pretty insane watching gold at that level. But I don't know. I mean, Bits, do you think gold runs up to 6K? Do you think that's the kind of thing is possible? I mean, what kind of time frame are you talking about for 6K here? Is this something that can happen in a couple months, or do you think that takes a couple years, sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you're asking Tony or me, but
I guess either one of you. I don't know if one of you wants to take a stab at it, but
yeah, gold, I'm actually leaning towards, believe it or not, I think it's close to a local top. And then I do think it to North Star's point as well, right? I do think it has quite a bit more upside, but I'm watching gold here, and I started paying a lot more attention, and this will make sense. Tony, tell me if it doesn't. But I started paying attention a lot more to gold once I saw that the total crypto market cap gold chart and then the BTC gold chart were approaching a previous low of BTC gold, right? So it automatically, the same way I would say like, okay, stablecoin dominance is approaching an interesting area. Let me go look at BTC or crypto. I'm kind of doing the same thing here where I'm saying, okay, it's approaching a level where maybe there's going to be a bounce. Maybe you get that capitulation that Tony's saying, and it just completely just rolls over. And in that case, I would not expect gold to come crashing down. I would expect gold to continue up, or at least maintain its positioning. That and BTC could melt relative to that. But the fact that these were kind of coming into like previous lows, I'm like, okay, like this is an opportunity where you maybe get a little bit of a bounce, which in that case, if Bitcoin is bouncing, it could really only mean one of two things, in my opinion, which is either Bitcoin's going to move much stronger than gold. Even if gold remains bullish, Bitcoin needs to be extra bullish compared to gold, like more bullish than gold, or gold is about to get weak. Gold is about to cool off, and then Bitcoin's going to get a bit of a pump. So either way, I was like interested. I'm like, I need to be paying attention to gold. So I've got this big channel on gold. I obviously, like, this is, I'm kind of a little early here. I don't know that is the swing high that I'm going to use to anchor back to this previous swing. I mean, this thing could go higher and then I'll modify it, but I threw it on here just using that wick here on this, on the last week's high, just to see what it would look like and to see if there's any kind of confluence here, if that was going to be a top. And then I'm using these lows down here. It's kind of going through this one. This one protrudes a little bit, but you got a perfect touch right here on that wick, and then sitting here on the closes of that. So I drew it there. I like how that goes there. But basically I was like, okay, is there any confluence to the midline of this channel? And there is. You had nice little bounce there, nice bounce here that turned into rejection right off that midline. We came back up to it, same thing. It kind of struggled with it, and then you had a beautiful touch right there, and then basically just holding this as support. So I'm like, okay, there's some confluence there. What about the other fib lines? Yeah, I like how that's moving there. I like how that rejected there. I like all of this chop through here. Like, all of that tells me that this fib line does make sense. There is something there. And then even if I come back up here and I kind of test the upper side of the channel, it's like, yeah, okay, I can see how it's kind of pivoting here, support resistance off these fib lines. So like, I'm good for now to leave it here until this gives me a confirmed swing high, whether that's a little bit higher or whether this just moves away from the current high and then that confirms as like a swing high, and we know that this is the channel. But more than not is really like, I put this on here just to give me a general visualization of what this move could look like, and then what a reversion to the mean, what a move back to the midline of this channel would look like. And then I can then look at, okay, is there any structure somewhere near that midline of the channel? Yes, there is. You've got this big accumulation area. Is there volume that might support that? Yes, this is where you have your spike, that represents this here on your volume profile, and you've got absolutely nothing above that. Okay, that makes sense in how I read like the volume profile. So to me, if we top sometime soon, I'd be very interested in a move for gold somewhere kind of back into this range. So it's kind of like the mid threes, like 3,500, maybe down to like 3,300. I think would be pretty interesting. And that'd be a off of the current level, that'd be somewhere between like maybe a 20%, maybe 22% pullback for gold. And you'd need something big like that, in my opinion, if BTC against gold is going to come and try and take out this this swing here, like even to get close to it. If it's going to do something like that, you're going to need a big pullback from gold, in my opinion. So curious to see if Tony has anything to add to that, or any comments on kind of what I'm covering there. But yeah, long term, I think that even on a pullback like that, I do still like agree with a lot of what Northstar says, which is that I do think it's on a trajectory much higher.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, really kind of fits my thoughts very well. I think it's at this point, gold is so overheated and so talked about and has rallied so much that it's hard not to see at least a pullback at some point within the next couple months, if not sooner. And then just based on what I'm seeing with the gold and S&P 500 ratio, it looks like what's happening is more of a longer term secular shift between soft assets and hard assets. Soft assets, people sort of, it's driven by hope and people panic out at the top. whereas hard assets, people panic more towards the bottoms and stuff, and the panic is what drives the price action. So yeah, very, very different things. It depends on the geopolitical climate as to what sort of phase we're in, and I definitely think we're facing hard assets, favoring hard assets in the future. So gold, commodities, other things like that. Now, where does Bitcoin fit in that? Now, it was designed to be more like a hard asset with a limited supply. However, I did notice this is the 2-month parabolic SAR on the gold priced in Bitcoin chart. So most of this feed so far, we've been looking at Bitcoin priced in gold. This is gold priced in Bitcoin. So it's upside down, but it basically shows 178 months of Bitcoin's existence. And for the first time ever, the parabolic SAR was tagged on the 2-month time frame, which, not the most significant time frame or anything like that. I definitely cherry picked it because of the significance here of like how long it's been to finally switch. But overall, it's not much more important than, say, a monthly or weekly or anything else, quarterly especially. But still, something is interesting here. The parabolic SAR, the SAR stands for stop and reverse. So this could be telling us that our uptrend in Bitcoin versus gold has stopped and reversed, and now we're going to see, overperformance in gold for a long time. And that's, Bits keeps referencing North Star, and that's basically North Star's belief is there's a great capital rotation. There's this secular shift, like I was just talking about, and Bitcoin may not do the things it used to do for potentially several years based on this. But
like
again,
a 4-year cycle playing out of a year just chilling. That is wild, actually, because that'd be such a hit for Bitcoiners, including myself. But I've told you guys my position. My position, I feel like, is iron. It's like I'm full poured into Bitcoin, but I am only concerned with cash flow because it doesn't really matter if I have cash flow because I can just keep buying at every level. I already don't have enough Bitcoin, so I'm very much happy if we go into a bear market. If we go up, I'm very happy with the position I'm currently in. Mm-hmm. But if Bitcoin was to fly to 300 grand, for example, and and we're in that territory now, I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'm going to collect way less Bitcoin than I ever thought I was going to be able to get. But that's kind of my position. I feel like it's like the ultimate hedge because you always have opportunities to trade and opportunities to pick up at lower positions as well. But that's a fascinating theory right there in terms of gold. And that would be like it wouldn't be like this crash of Bitcoin. It would just be like, hey, there's an outperformance of a different assets. We weren't really seeing this happening. It just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So that's a great point to make. It doesn't necessarily foretell like this crash in Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin spends several years in some type of accumulation and it's just a lot lower volatility while gold is being bought up by central banks and prices being driven higher. So like anything really could be driving this. It just does sort of hint towards something is going on here. Enough for me to pay a close attention to and continue to watch and at least consider, some of the things that I've talked about with Bitcoin, the momentum teetering over and all that. But overall, I do want to sort of call out the fact that like this is unprecedented for Bitcoin. Like throughout its history, it's had mostly a good economic backdrop, and it didn't face wars and it didn't face all these different things. And now that this is the reality for Bitcoin, maybe it's like some of its speculative energy is sort of gone, and doesn't mean it doesn't have true value. What we could be seeing now is a shakeout of speculators and weak hands and things like that, and it eventually goes to $1 million, and it's an institutional asset. It's a monetary asset. It's all these different things that it isn't quite right now. Sometimes, just like in anything, as a human, you need to make mistakes, go through hardships, because it's what teaches you how to better yourself and face adversity. So the market's going to do that. It's going to, Bitcoin has been growing like insanely, millions of percents over its history. Maybe it's just time to give a little bit of that back or let other things shine for a while. It doesn't necessarily mean anything bad for Bitcoin, and it ultimately could be a good thing. Another take I want to look at this as is, in Elliott wave principle, you do your 5 waves up, and then it's three waves down that correct it. But there's still some progress made. And when you finish your 5 waves, you're moving on to a larger degree correction. And after your say, this whole entire history of Bitcoin I'm looking at, that's the first ever full super cycle of Bitcoin. yeah, maybe what we see next is a pretty bad crash or bear market, but that only means after that we're going to see the longest, strongest wave ever to the upside. It's just, it's part of growth over time. So yeah, it's a really interesting time in markets. I love the idea of all this intermarket analysis being more important. It's not just looking at crypto charts anymore. It's looking at all these other things, and trying to make sense out of each of them. Another thing I really wanted to show really quick, just for a little bit more hopium. I didn't kind of finish marking out the top, but I mean the chart fully, but you can kind of see what I was looking at. So this one down here is silver. This one up here is total 2, so everything but Bitcoin. And this is the correlation coefficient, which measures the strength of any sort of correlation, and then the direction of the relationship. So if it's rising, clearly it's getting stronger, strengthening. So usually when we get this strong positive correlation between silver and altcoins, and then it begins to roll, we tend to get our huge moves up, or a bottom is put in. So huge move up, bottom is put in, huge move up, bottom is put in. You can see that I didn't get the arrow over there, but this one rolled. And it got to be from this strong positive. So this is kind of like a false sort of signal here. But, again, we're back up at this strong positive area. Silver's got a candle that looks like it may possibly want to be topping or something like that. Some of the capital here from metals, gold included, start to then roll into our altcoins, and then we finally get this that like literally everybody's been waiting for? I don't know. But also this is my longer term silver chart, which I drew this out literally over here. So it's been following really well. This is more what I'm kind of thinking for silver and gold. And then we have, this is like ends, say, maybe 2028 and then does more. So, there's definitely a phase in here. If there is true capital rotation, or maybe it's here, capital rotation from metals into alts or something like that, maybe it's coming soon, or maybe this is more like this or something like this, and it's going to start soon. So, just some things to, when I can't really figure out very clearly what's going on based on like momentum and other stuff I use, I tend to start going and digging around correlations and other oddities that maybe are going to tip me off into something I wasn't paying attention to. So, maybe there's something here in silver, maybe not, but I'm still seeing enough bullishness in the altcoin charts that I'm not writing that off whatsoever. And again, the big question mark just happens to be Bitcoin, like what's happening with Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's great stuff there. Bits, let me turn it back over to you here. And okay, there we go. Yeah, some kind of glitch. Is it pulled up?
Tony, you're gonna have to give me a deeper pullback on silver, man. You're gonna have to go in there and give me a little bit of a deeper pullback, man. Let me grab a drink real quick, man.
No worries.
Oh, there we go. So much better. What am I sharing here? Oh, I'm still on the gold spot. So I am currently right now fishing for on gold spot. I'm fishing for see if I get a nice little short play off of this zone here. I'm also looking to play the sweep of the previous week high if we get that. But yeah, like to Tony's point, I do think that charts that are looking at stuff like this, where it's like you're looking at crypto relative to indices or other commodities or stuff like that. Like even with BTC, I've got a BTC over SPX plus NDX, which is an interesting chart as well. And just different ways to look at this stuff, because one thing that's really jumped out at me this cycle, if you will, is people have had options. It hasn't really been that typical cycle where BTC has just been doing this and like nothing else has competed, right? Like this was that last move up into the 17 highs, and then this was 2021, right? And during 17, man, you can see the outperformance here was just crazy. I mean, this was parabolic. During 2021, it slowed down a little bit. You still had a nice run up here, and then you had your double top. This one's been just so flat, just so flat. Compared to what these moves have been historically. So something is definitely changing here. And I think you have to be, just considering the fact that maybe a lot of this early outperformance, like Landy likes to use that example of BTC's up like, what does he say? It's like 400,000% or something like it's some crazy number against gold from like since its inception. And it's like, sure, I mean that you see that when you have a new asset class, you see that when you've got something that's going from nothing to something, right? But at some point it reaches a level of liquidity and a level of adoption that those moves are now less violent because there's more competition, right? So I am looking at that, just the fact that this move has been tapering off over time. The same thing if you look at BTC against, I like to use GSG as kind of like a commodities bucket. So I like to look at stuff over GSG. Same thing, right? These are your 2021 highs here. We were flatlined, pushed up against them for a long time. We moved up, had a nice support. But since then, the move is just like, typically when you see these support resistance flips like this, usually they come like with a subsequent big push, because you're flipping a very important long-term high time frame level. It usually comes with like a big push, and we've just not seen that here with BTC against commodities. Like you look at gold, silver. There's been other things that have moved just as strong, if not stronger. This is basically sideways. Like, do you have periods where it's gone up and then pulled back and up and down and up? Yeah, but if you were to take just, and this is where the moving averages kind of paint the picture as well. But if you were just kind of to take a profile of all of this volume, it's going to give you a POC that's just kind of down here somewhere in the middle, meaning that even through all the volatility, you're still just kind of going sideways. Like you really just have a sideways range that you're bouncing through. So it's been a very different market in that sense. It hasn't had really that clear outperformance that we saw previously, like in other cycles where it's been a no-brainer. Like you wanted to be overexposed to BTC. It was like that was the play. You wanted to be as heavily exposed to BTC and as underexposed to anything else as possible. And it's just not been the case right now. You've had plenty of options, like gold's just been such a crazy mover, right? Like even if you waited to get in here, like you're so up right now. You're just so freaking up on gold. So I just think it's a different market, man. It's a different environment right now. We will see if that 4-year cycle plays out again. We will see then if if we do have that typical BTC bear market pullback, right? And what could that look like? There's I won't get into some of the stuff like what this line means and some other stuff, but maybe for a future show, like there's some stuff, like if we're going to throw out some crazy numbers and we're going to try and make some kind of future looking predictions, because that's all they really are, is just like predictions, speculating on what we think can happen. Like there's some cool levels that we can say, okay, if we're going to have a typical bull and bear cycle, how deep could that pullback be, and roughly when should we be expecting a low for that to happen, right? Just based on the historical data. So maybe that's for a future show that we'll do. And I think we got another one coming up Wednesday, don't we, Kate? I think we're hopping on stream Wednesday. Maybe we could do it Wednesday, or maybe we wait till next week. But other than that, man, I'm just looking at alts. Like I want to see if alts show a little bit of strength somewhere in here. So I've gone through just a bunch of them over the weekend and just trying to identify, okay, which ones do I think are going to have a nice move up to their next zone. And man, they're kind of iffy right now. I got to be honest. I'm not fully convinced if we're quite ready to rock and roll yet. So I don't know. Maybe we got a little bit of a pullback this week, and then that kind of sets us up for a bit of a move. But we'll see. I'd really like to see gold get a bit of a cool off. I think that's going to be maybe the start of whatever that catalyst is going to be. You're muted, Cade, by the way. You're still muted.
I agree entirely that gold is sort of the one to watch right now. It seems to be commanding
like the signal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when we see gold cool off, we'll get a sign in crypto that, you know, something is
Yes.
is changing, basically. Like if we get that
Big
huge
time.
blow off wick in gold and we see some huge wick on Bitcoin or something, it will be so obvious that the capital rotated. So,
well, even just from the speculation of the possibility that it could rotate back to crypto, right? Like if you see this run here and you do put in a local top, like it begs the question, well, where's all the profit taking going to be placed, Tony, right? Like that's the question, right? You're taking profits. What are you doing? Are you just putting it back into fiat and you're just sidelined waiting for the dip so you can buy more gold? Or are you going to rotate maybe into something else? You know, do we see, you know, and it could still be a TradFi play, but do we see some of that go back into, I don't know, tech stocks? Does it go into other commodities? Does it go into, like we haven't really looked at oil much, but does it go into like maybe oil, or does it go into alt metals? Right? Because we kind of talked about that, Cade, right? Where it's like we've got some alt seasons, but they're happening on alternative markets, not really alternative coins inside of crypto, right? You're getting that capital rotation, but it's happening, you know, where people are buying stocks, people are lining up, retail's lining up to buy physical gold and silver. You're seeing people get exposed to gold futures and options and a bunch of stuff online as well. So it's been a little bit different. And I am curious, okay, are the profit takers from this gold move, you know, are they going to go to crypto, or are they going to stay in, you know, alt markets outside of crypto? I don't know.
that's a really interesting thought in theory, especially because, again, I earlier I was talking about the secular shift from like soft assets to hard assets. So, you know, if you are someone who holds gold and you're doing so because you like hard assets and you're sort of anti-fiat currency, do you move it into Bitcoin then? I mean, like, what else is there out there that isn't gold? You know, you brought up the alternative metals, and it's funny because I've been calling silver like the OG altcoin like for like years now, and I really do look at it like that. So, like, you know, money is palladium starting to do good. You know, like all these metals will end up doing good. Probably some industrial metals will eventually do well based on that as well. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point to make, is that, you know, there's more of a likelihood to me that it goes into crypto than it does go into stocks based on the whole secular hard and soft asset shift. So
It's all going to go into Litecoin, Tony.
let's hope so.
Do you have an updated Litecoin chart, by the way? Like anything jumping out at you, or is it just kind of boring right now?
I do. I got something that I'm messing with. So
cool,
yeah, let me put that on and put that chart up, and I'll show you.
Cade, you're still super muted, dude. You know what? Check go into the browser's permissions, and you may need to like give StreamYard permission again. Like sometimes that resets for some reason. Or just check your mic settings on the computer, your inputs, outputs. Sometimes, I don't know, they glitch. I think it's happened to me once or twice here. Can you throw up Tony's screen when you get a chance, by the way?
Cool. Yeah. So one thing that's really interesting for Litecoin for me is it really depends on what chart you're looking at. So like if you're looking at Binance, this wick went all the way, I think, even below this over here. So, you know, we may have made some sort of lower low on some charts we didn't. But when I'm thinking of Litecoin, I'm thinking of literally the most painful coin to hold. And, you know, what I'm seeing here, so this was all very, Litecoin's triangle is difficult. In Elliott wave, you got to count your triangles as with 5 internal subwaves, A, B, C, D, E. At one point, I was thinking maybe this was D, and then this was our E, which ended the triangle. The structure over here was way more violent and, to me, more atypical of an E wave. But then we got this, which also, like, you know, could be E wave material, like D, you know, an ABC here, and then end on a D. But then this last sort of idea is an E wave in a triangle can actually then turn into a triangle itself, labeled with lower degree A, B, C, D, E. So basically this whole E wave over here could end up being a triangle and more Max Payne type scenario for Litecoin. And the reason why this happens is from all this contracting sort of price action over time. The volatility stirs up here, and it sort of like, just chops everybody up before taking off on the bigger run. Another thing, someone, I don't think this is the right chart for it, sadly. Maybe I'll just quickly throw in the Binance chart. Oh, that's Bitcoin.
Let's do it. By the way, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hey,
Perfect.
back.
Yeah, it was I literally just clicked I thought I was clicking headphone and or external microphone, and I was clicking something that was definitely not that. And I'm not sure where my brain was. I don't know when my brain was planning on kicking in, but I just had to leave and come back. So
Well, it's because you're clueless, like
of
Cheryl
course,
said,
of course,
right? So,
yes.
yeah.
And by the way, I don't even see that comment anymore. I don't know if it disappeared on my end, but I can't. I was gonna pull hers up again. It is what it is. I've really leaned into rage bits. I feel like I've finally
You just embraced it.
I've eclipsed elite content mode where I'm like, finally, like rage bait is fuel now. Before I still feel it's still like an arrow, it's still like, like
Yeah.
But now it's like, you know what? Like it's like a good rage, where you're like, yes, like this is fueling versus like, this is putting me down.
Yeah.
And so honestly, it's because like it's just nonsense on Twitter, dude. It's just like noobs all
I
arguing.
think
like,
if you think of it as
noobs.
like if you think of it as like a game and you're just saying like, I really don't win this game unless I get these types of actions and these types of comments.
Dude.
Then it's like, cool, man. Just it is what it is, man.
I'm going to show you this thing. It'll probably get us copyrighted, but I have to. It's one of the reels that I listen to in the gym. It's like on repeat. It's like 8-second reel. It's a clip of you. Maybe you haven't seen it. It's Jujutsu Kaisen. It's an anime scene, but basically the clip is it's him. And the 5-second version is he is a great person. He's the epitome of a hero you want to be. He's like young, hardworking, everything talented. And then he basically just sort of like becomes evil, but it's not really him. And the story just goes from he's got all this hope and optimism, and then he sees the world, it's all awful, and he gets really down. So the whole clip it says, when I grow up, I'll study hard, I won't hurt anyone, and I'll be loved by everyone. And then it's like 5 years later, and it's just like, it cuts to another thing, and he's just like, just straight face, just like, it's just the reality of the world, bro.
That's how it works, man. What's up, Landy? I see you in the chat. Yeah.
All right, back over to you, Tony.
Yeah, so I found this pretty interesting on this latest move here. So in Elliott wave principle, you get your 5 waves up, and then there's these rules and guidelines that sort of help tell you if the count is accurate or not. Now, in an impulsive structure, basically, a trending move, you want one of the rules are that wave 4 cannot enter the territory of a price territory of wave 1. Now, part of this, though, that people don't really know usually around Elliott wave is the wave 4 just if it's a triangle, it can actually enter into the wave 1 price territory. It just, the last move cannot terminate inside wave 1 price territory. So it's just very interesting to me that what would have been the termination point. So if this is our E of the triangle and our last sort of down move, it terminated precisely outside of price wave 1's price territory. So to me, it's still very much the same triangle pattern that I've been looking at all along. Not much has changed. It just may have actually ended. And if it ended, then we'll finally get our up thrust out. This is the whole lower low thing here does actually, to me, it speaks more of like the E wave thing, because internal subwaves of a triangle have to be A, B, C. We got like an A, B, C here, and even inside the move A, B, C. So it's just, there's a lot of 3-wave moves inside this triangle. The termination point of wave 4 would be above price territory of wave 1. So, despite what happens kind of hurting some of the technicals, the positive bullish technicals I was looking at, it really didn't hurt the overall bull market structure, in my opinion. So, I still think we're going to get this. And because I think we're still going to get this, it gives me a lot of hope for, again, Bitcoin doing well one more time, altcoins potentially having their day. So, just going to keep watching that gold chart for a top. Watch the Bitcoin gold ratio and look for expansion in the Bollinger Bands on the others chart, and I should be able to know a lot more about where we're headed, either towards the end of this year or into the beginning of Q1. I think, this move is potentially devastating enough that it's probably going to keep people sitting on their hands, at least for the rest of this month anyway. And, we won't see any sort of movement until the following month. But definitely, kind of not the Q4 2025 I thought that we were going to be getting. But, that's another lesson. It's really unwise to truly expect really anything in markets, and expecting the unexpected is a wise strategy. So just because I just thought of it before I sort of wrap up this particular section of my commentary, I just want anybody who's listening and is listening to the whole crypto gold doing well at different times, and there was just such a bloodbath in crypto. You guys got to get diversified. You can't have your entire capital and life savings and net worth in crypto. Most of it's in meme coins, and then be like, why did my portfolio crash by 70-80%? Like, that's very much why, is because you didn't do the right things with your portfolio. I don't know, in crypto in general, it does seem to be very like, hey, let's go all in on crypto. For me, I don't know if this is just because of my teachings as a CMT, because I wasn't really like this before, admittedly, but I was taught manage your capital and protect your capital first. And when you're doing that, you don't get caught in big moves like we just saw. You're only taking a small position at any given time. You're scaling in, you're scaling out. You're diversified. You're not just diversified across crypto, but you're diversified across different asset classes and things like that. What has saved if I was all crypto portfolio this year, I would have done probably pretty poorly this year. I mean, I definitely got I wrote a couple things pretty well, but almost all of my capital upside and portfolio growth this year has been to gold and silver. So, it was a good move. And, I know, I'm saying diversify and to consider things like gold and silver, but, we also just showed on the charts that they're quite overheated. Now it's probably not the right time to get diversified into those.
How is the experience selling? How is the experience? So if you were to take profits on gold and silver, like physicals, for example, are you buying bars, coins? Is it relatively easy to transact? Like that was for me. It's just Bitcoin is so liquid, so fast. You can just boom, you're selling. Boom, you're liquid. Boom, you're not liquid. I love that aspect of Bitcoin.
That's by far my favorite aspect of Bitcoin, and why I still pretty much am most heavily into Bitcoin than anything else. It's the liquidity. It's the in and out. I can trade it and get in and out very easily. Whereas, like, I think they're, what are they, 100 ounce silver bars I got? They're like the size of a brick. They weigh like 10 pounds. You're carrying it to like a gold dealer or something like that and cashing these things out, and you leave with like a big wad of cash. It's not a great process. You feel like you're going to kill the entire time. But yeah, I mean, I literally just take it to gold dealers and you really got to look for the right one. Some will pay you 80% of spot price, which sucks. Like that. You give up 20% of your gains right there. So, I found one guy who does like 95, another guy that does 90. So, but yeah, you usually lose a little bit of your premium, just like when you're buying gold and silver bars when they're scarce. You pay a little bit more than what spot price is. You pay a premium. So when you're getting rid of them too, you usually pay a little bit below spot price. So you got to factor that into anybody listening. If you're buying physical, you end up paying more than spot, and then you get less than spot when you cash it out.
Let's put that in some crypto friendly terms there, Tony. That's the slippage.
That's
good.
The tax and the fees and the slippage on sniping those meme coin entries, man. Same with gold.
That's actually a really, really good analogy. I'm gonna, all right, 58 minutes. I'm gonna clip that. I'm gonna type this in so I don't forget it. 57-ish, 58 minutes. What do you call it? What would I say this? Like hard money versus not even hard money, like physicals, selling physicals versus Bitcoin versus slippage. That is I love that segment. I see Landy's getting active in here. You really liked your analysis here, by the way, Tony, talking about the waves. I think this is when you were talking about Litecoin. And then he mentioned for physicals, gold and silver, you have to meet some good dealers and build a good relationship. I think it's the same with when I got into watches for the first time, and I finally bought one in person. I was like, oh, this is different than online. Like in person, I need to actually build a relationship. Like I can't just go over here and like meander around. I got to buy a watch so they know I'm real, and then I got to build a relationship with this person because they might actually. There's no other way to do this in the real world. It's so different than you just clicking buy, add to cart. Like we've been spoiled. I mean, I've definitely been spoiled.
Definitely been spoiled. Yeah. And that's why it's hard to come back from crypto is like, the ease of it all, the in and out.
Yeah.
I can trade my Bitcoin 25 times a day and it like not be anything. Whereas one gold bar, if I want to get rid of it, it takes a ride to somewhere. Then, you do have to have a good relationship with your dealer. So you're in there chatting with them and stuff. It's like 3-hour deal to sell your gold. And you took a 10% hit on it in the end anyway. So yeah, there's downsides to everything. It was an interesting thing. Like what really got me into gold specifically was I was buying some gold jewelry, and I'm like, I kind of like that. Like I'm buying something that I can use and wear and get some enjoyment out of, but it's also an investment. And then it just was like, I got to buy some physical silver bars.
That's cool.
Just load it up, and it was a good play.
Yeah, definitely. There are some cool. I agree. There are some unwritten cool things about the physicals. Like I love the watches because I'm like, hey, I have value here. If I get robbed, that would suck. That's the downside. But if I need collateral, if I need a plane ticket or whatever, for whatever reason, I'm like, dude, I promise you this will cover any plane ticket you need. Like I need this right now, or for whatever reason, I love that aspect. And also you feel like a G. You're like, brother, I'm like ice on my wrist right now. I feel good right now. I feel confident. And there's one thing that maybe you can have that same thing with, the amount of money in your net worth or in your Robinhood account, or like maybe, but it's like, I don't know if there's something that can replace you just feeling that money. You can feel that value on your body, whether it's a necklace or whatever it is.
I would even add, guys, I don't think there's a single movie that we've watched that's like World War III apocalypse, end of the world type movie where ATMs are working, online banking is working, cell phones are working. So it's like, look, maybe this is just like the schizo conspiracy theory side of me, but I mean, as I will tell you this as a parent, like you plan for all kinds of scenarios. Yeah. And I would say, like, if you're not planning for a scenario where you need to have something to be able to trade and barter with in an event where, like, our banking and our communications aren't working, totally. Dude, like that could get crazy. And sure, like maybe the usefulness of like a big old bar of gold or silver is also limited, but there's coins and who knows, man? I mean, we never know how things are going to go when that happens. So 100%. Yeah, I think there's a place for it, man. I think there's a place for it. And like, I think the biggest like takeaway from what Tony was sharing is just like, you got to start diversifying. You really do. And, I talked about it on the space earlier about even just diversifying, like the exchanges you're using, the wallets, like you got to do that in crypto, Yeah,
100%.
Randy says,
he's asking the real questions here. Rando's asking the right questions. When alt season? I mean, this is the only question that matters, right? Yeah. And I figure we can stay on for another couple of minutes and we'll wrap here up. Maybe a final question. But yeah, well, I was going to say, so appreciate Rando the question, and definitely if you are in the YouTube or X Crowd, wherever you're watching, definitely in these streams moving forward, definitely if you have tickers you want us to look at or certain key levels or whatever, please let us know in the comments. We'll try our best to get to them during the stream if we have time. Fortunately, Landy answered the question for us, so there's no need to even get into it. Tomorrow at 6:42 a.m. It's an alt season, so this is fantastic news from our favorite market maker, Mr. Landy. So huge wins here across the board.
Alt season starts right here, man. Alt season starts right under this level right here. So let's get into that, and then alt season.
Jim Young says, if we devolve to the point we need physical gold coins, you better have guns and ammo too. Absolutely.
Agreed. 100%. Radios. You better have handheld radios and be able to communicate and listen in on ham. And that's a whole nother, man. If we want to start a show about that, sign me up.
I actually would be open to that, because I think even if it's silly or a 1% chance, I feel like it's reckless not to plan. At least have a plan. You don't have to have everything ready to go, but like you should. I don't know. I mean, it's like having Bitcoin and then not having like all the tools with it. Like, hey, like you should probably have the seed phrase. You should probably have a cold card. You should have your phone. You should have like a backup. Like there should be things that come along with buying Bitcoin, or if you're buying gold, there's things that come with it. Like you're talking about guns and ammo to protect the gold. Absolutely. You need a safe. You need probably like a bunker. I mean, I would have an underground bunker. Like that's the really reason I'm trying to get rich, so I can have this ability to take care of myself if I need to. because I don't trust any of these people. I don't trust the government people. I don't trust the people telling me it's going to be fine. These guys are all noobs, and they were put in those positions from people above them. I do not believe them. Anyways, we'll bounce over back to you, Bits.
Spoken like a true Bitcoiner right there, Kate.
I can't help it. I cannot help it. I've seen too many movies. The movies are real life, though.
Yeah, good stuff. No, look, I don't know that I have anything else to really add. I'm looking at some short-term trades, but I think we've gone over like our high time frame analysis so many times on stream and on stuff that nothing's really changed at this point. Not enough time has passed. So I'm looking for some short-term stuff. I'm watching gold pull back. I'm looking at some of these like Zcash and some of these strong performers to maybe get some continuation. So maybe an entry coming up on Zcash if I can get a little bit of a deeper pullback here. Same thing with BTC, watching for continuation of this little uptrend that it's on off the lows. And then just waiting for alts to show some kind of signs of life or something, right? But that's basically it, man. Not a whole lot is going on. Short term feeling pretty good. I'm short term bullish, and but happy to pivot if we see that we hit some kind of resistance. So
very nice. And by the way, Landy said gold backs. I didn't know. I thought that was something else. But gold backs are gold bills that are.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of this. Silverbacks and goldbacks.
Mm-hmm.
What's this a thing?
Yeah, there's even some states that I think are, and Landy would know better because I'm going to misspeak to it, but like there was a lot of legislation that was recently pushed where different states are, the whole point is you should be able to use it as currency, right?
Yeah, exactly. Legal tender to be able to use it.
Legal tender.
That's fascinating. All right, Landy, we're in our next stream. I don't know when it is, but we're doing one, and we're going to dive into this stuff because that's interesting. Let me pass over to Tony again. If Tony,
I just was throwing that chart up to just continue looking at for some talking points, but I really don't have much more. Again, just to reiterate, big thing for me is kind of watching what gold does, and then how crypto reacts to that. So still in the wait and see sort of camp right now, and just with everybody watching these things unfold in gold and silver, just, again, when we get a good pullback or the next bear market or whatever the case may be, diversify. There's no harm in that. Look for other commodity plays potentially too, or even other metals that haven't fully ran yet or anything like that. So there's a lot out there. It's not all just in crypto. And when you really think, you got metals that have had, use as currency or industrial use for hundreds of thousands of years. And then you got thousands of cryptocurrencies that some like coder made out of thin air. You just think of it from a value standpoint. Like, there's this no-name coin that, it's a low cap and it could do a 200x. Does it really have value though, compared to say a bar of gold that, has been around forever as money and central banks are buying? So, just people gotta do a better job of understanding what it is that they are buying, and
1,000%.
the market will reward you for buying the right ones.
Beautiful, love that. And I see Landy's fitting in some last alpha here as well. It looks like here are a few of the states that are popular for gold backs, including Florida, which is nice because Florida is somewhere I will be moving to. So that's good to know. I am definitely interested into that one. So I appreciate the information there, Landy, and to you guys, both Bits and Tony, appreciate you guys for coming through and just sharing some thoughts, going through the markets and stuff. Definitely, if you're in the space, you're enjoying what we've talked about, definitely follow these two. We got Bits and Wells here, as you can see, a legend, and even tag Litecoin in the bio. I mean, look, this guy.
You have to, man. You have to.
Look, I mean, this is what he believes in. This is what he believes in. I'm also a believer in Stimmy. I'm almost a believer in. I can't not be a believer in the qualities of Litecoin, but I have to see some more evidence, I guess, that
you're skeptical on the adoption of Litecoin.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
On the adoption of Litecoin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then of course,
but it's hard to deny the fundamentals. And
this is true.
Yeah.
This is true. And then I'll bounce over to Mr. Tony as well. If you guys like some of the stuff Tony was talking about, definitely recommend you guys get connected with him. And all you have to do, by the way, is literally just click right above our faces, and you can click Tony, you can click Bits, and give them both a follow. They do all sorts of stuff on their own analysis. Oh, heck yeah. They've got the Wolf stuff on their page. He does his own posting. Bits is the same, right? Posting lots of content, posting streams, posting analysis. And so, look, you're not going to be able to get as quick up-to-date stuff on YouTube and streams and stuff like that X is just a lot easier to fire off tweets and fire off content. And hey, here's what I'm seeing. Here's kind of what I'm sharing. And so definitely recommend you guys give them a follow. And any final thoughts, guys? Tony, Bits, before we sign off?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe Tony needs to just up his rage bait game
Rage
a little
bait,
bit.
more
More
rage
trolling,
bait.
but yeah, other than that, no, man, I think we're good.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah,
All
man.
right. Well, listen. Okay.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Kate. These are also always
100%.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Ton of fun. And for everyone back at home, please repost the stream if you enjoyed it. If you're on X, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. And we'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care. We'll be back on, I think we have a couple, I think we have what's today? Monday? I don't think we have another space, but we might do one. I've been doing lots of random after hours market talks. They're kind of fun. They're vibey. We usually go for accidentally like 3 hours sometimes, but they're a lot of fun. So maybe we'll throw on one of those if Bitcoin starts to move later. And otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. And